Welcome to Up on the Bars discussion with your host, Roy Bain.
Welcome into a Thursday night. We're trying to get back into the routine of getting the show going, but we're going to have the holidays very quickly. So we're going to take another break through the holidays, and we'll be back full steam after the first of the year. But to finish up our 2024 season, we're going to bring in a gentleman that I've been friends with on Facebook for a while, but we kind of hadn't talked a lot or do anything. And he happened to see what we were doing the other night, and we talked a little bit. And I saw he was a driver in NASCAR at Arca, and, we kind of didn't talk or anything like that. But I said, hey, let's come on there. And he said, hey, let's do it. So we're here tonight, and we have Arca driver, NASCAR driver, Electra Mod owner, and all that stuff. Roger Carter, welcome, buddy. How you doing tonight?
All right, Roy, how are you doing? I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting at home, so it's a lot better. We already got some people that said, hey, we got Lacey Lester said hello, and then we got Jerry Stewart that said hello. Hey, Jerry. Jerry was watching the Dome race earlier on Flow, and he said he was going to be in here. I talked to him right before we went on air. He's a dirt late model driver, multi-time Bud Nationals winner, Tri-State Pro Stock driver, and all that. And so, Roger, you're talking to us from Michigan tonight. First question is it cold in Michigan?
I'm actually in Indiana right now.
So okay.
My businesses are in Indiana. I still have a residence in Michigan. I'm actually traveling some. I'm in a hotel right now. So it's on the phone. So if it's kind of hard. I didn't have my laptop with me. But also, too, if I start coughing, I apologize. I'm just coming off a pneumonia. So. Yeah.
Well, is it pneumonia or COVID or any of that other stuff these days? I don't think anybody can actually tell you, right?
No, they couldn't. I 6 weeks I've been dealing with it, into the hospital a couple times. It's finally getting better. So.
And we got a big howdy from your team owner, Alex Clubb. Hey, Alex, welcome in. I hope you enjoy this tonight.
Yeah, Alex is a good guy, man. So I appreciate Alex a lot. He's a great team owner, great friend, and couldn't ask for a better guy.
All right, so let's get into your background. I know, being from Michigan, that cars are just in your background. So tell us how you got involved in racing and where you come from and your progression.
I got involved in racing way back. I had a friend in high school. Him and I loved cars. We worked in the auto mechanics together in school, and we started building a car way back then in high school. We wanted to run some races. He did. He was the driver of the car. I always took the racing as the team owner side. I liked just as much as the driving side. Back then, we built a street stock, took it to Spartan Speedway. We towed it there with an 85 Lincoln Town Car and a tow strap, got pulled over by the cops right in front of the place, but we were two dumb kids bringing our first race car to a racetrack. Oddly enough, Butch Feedawa felt so sorry for us because he looked like somebody just fell off the off the salvage wagon with what we brought there. So he took the car and made something out of it and became friends with him. My friend that I was in high school with, he had a family down in North Carolina. So we were traveling North Carolina once in a while. He said, hey, I want to introduce you to a guy I met. And that guy happened to be Richard Bear. And that's what really got me set up in racing. Dick Bear was Michael Waltrip's team owner at the time. This was in 1986, I think it was. And Dick Bear and I became good friends. I went off at a young age, went out west, made some money, came back to North Carolina and said, I'm dumb enough. I think I want to own a race team and help and be with you. And that's kind of where it took off. 94, I took my first car to the Arca series down to Daytona. And I was hooked on it ever since. It's been with me ever since that day. It's anybody that's been in racing will tell you it just never leaves your blood. You just can't get rid of it. So I live, breathe, and sleep it. I've been working really hard to get my team back, and that's what I'm doing. But yeah, that's how I got started in it.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like the biggest story through all of us. So I got to give some shout outs real quick. Hey, Jimmy Owen. Hey, Jerry Mijo Quintana. Thank you for the Merry Christmas from your man cave and Merry Christmas from us up here. Rick Workman at Workman's Communication. Thanks for all you do to help. He's the one that helps get this podcast going all the time. So thank you, Rick. Huge supporter of the Tri-State Pro Stocks, huge supporter of racing. Workman's Communication, you can see him back here on my board up here, wherever it is, right there. I'm backwards on my thing. So, longtime friend, awesome guy. If you need any low voltage stuff done in the Sacramento area, all that stuff, Bay Area, Rick Workman's your guy. Don't forget him. So, Workman's Communication. But your story is the same as you hear from so many people. It's kind of nice to hear you didn't start in go-karts. I got to say that. That's where it all starts for a lot of people is go-karts. So I got started way late in life. So it Justin Dorr, another guy joining us, says once you get in a car, it would be hard to ever get out of one. Off-season sucks. Yes, Justin and his buddy Joby, they do rep for vets, local racers here. Awesome guys, both veterans. But I was into rodeo and stuff when I was younger. Then I got out of the Navy and came up here, got into a race car, and I've been addicted to it ever since. It only takes once. Once, literally. And you're selling the same story that we did. So let me ask you a question. You said you mentioned somebody's name, and I've heard their name a lot of late. It's the Fedewas.
Yes.
They are a huge name in Michigan, I would assume, in racing. Everybody that races in Michigan mentions the Fedewas in one shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah, there's Gary, Tommy, their sprint car drivers. Gary, of course, they're retired. I think Tommy is now too. I'm getting so old I can't keep up with it. But Butch Fedewa is Timmy Fedewa's father, and I've been friends with Butch and Timmy. Timmy actually spotted for me back in 2013 some, and I hope I can get him to spot again for me when we run some speedways. Just great people. I could never thank them enough for helping us out, and back in the day when I was just a dumb kid.
Well, and see, when we had Jeff Finley on, he brought up them. And I don't know, with all you running around with the Fedewas up there, did you run in with Kenny Schrader or any of that group that was up there going on with all that time?
No, that was this was in it must have been the late 80s, I mainly know the Fedewas and Finleys and stuff from Spartan Speedway.
Right.
So I really, Ken Schrader, obviously I know, Arca team owner, everybody know. I know Ken Schrader. I'm no friends with him or anything, but just racing acquaintance, great guy. I don't think anyone ever said an ill word to say about Ken Schrader. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah, and I was just wondering because it sounded like you're mentioning the names that everybody keeps mentioning up there, and it seems like they kind of all centered around, and then they seem like a family that helps everybody in racing around there. And if the Lasters are watching, when I was at PRI and met them down there, it seems like they kind of have that, and it's kind of neat how the different areas have the names in the area. And Fedewa is one. Right. Being around the Michigan area brings up. So you started out in a street stock. Was it on asphalt? Did you do any dirt racing?
It was on asphalt, which was Spartan Speedway, Corrigan Speedway, Owasso we went to and stuff back when I was in Michigan. And like I say, we transitioned to North Carolina at a pretty early time. It was 91, so we weren't in Michigan too long with it.
Right.
And then, like I say, from there on, from 94 till Dick Bear passed away in 2008, I was partners with him in everything we did with racing. So.
Okay, so did you have a lot of immediate success? Is that what sparked you on moving to North Carolina?
No, I mean, average. I don't think I've ever had any great news success. So, I mean, yes, I listen, I don't sit here. You'll never hear me say I'm the world's greatest driver. You'll never hear me bragging about my driving ability or say anything that I'm even any good at it. Most everybody out there, this younger generation, and a lot of guys that are better than I am. I try to pride myself on staying out of trouble. I enjoy racing. I've got, a couple top tens, one at Michigan that is very, very good to me. I finished on the lead lap, 8th at Michigan, which is a huge accomplishment for me. And I mean, we didn't fall into it. The car was good, and I actually drove a good race that race. And I did really well at some of the racetracks that, short tracks that, a lot of guys haven't. So I'm proud of that. I don't never claim that I'm the greatest. Now, I've had some really good drivers in my car that, I enjoy having, that I can see do fantastic jobs. It makes you pretty proud.
All right. So So I had to bring this up. See, you went from Michigan and said, I'm going to go to North Carolina and we're going to go big league racing, which I don't know. When you got to North Carolina, did you race like Hickory and Caraway and kind of build your foot there? Or did you just say we're jumping in both feet and going to Daytona?
What a lot of people don't know about myself, I was a car owner then. I didn't start driving race cars myself until 2006. So
Okay.
I was real late with that. I started in a limited late model car, basically.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. I ran some stuff like, street stock, some mechanics races, things. I knew a lot about race cars. I tested cars, did a lot that way. But I started my racing career pretty much as driving in 2006.
Okay.
Up at that point, I was a car owner.
All right. So going into Arca, and I know with talking with some people and like Ed, we talked about Ed Renzi and all them, every one of them gets the bug and they go to Arca. And I'm assuming that's your first progression is what you did is into Arca.
We went to Arca first as a car owner. Now, Dick Bear was already a Cup owner. Okay. He was kind of retired from Cup. He was part of Bahari Racing after he had his own deal when Michael Walchuk went with Chuck Ryder and them. Well, the Bahari is BA is Bear. That's how it started. So once he got out of Bahari Racing, that's when me and him started doing pretty much everything together. I owned quite a few businesses back then. I was actually successful. So I put a lot of deals together for us. I more was the money guy that helped out. We did some Cup racing. Then after I took down the Arca car, I took to Daytona was my own deal, 100%. We took it down ourselves. It was under Dick's name, but it was ours. But yeah, we raced together with Dick and, back then in what was a Busch Series and a few Cup races and, did a lot of that. And then I progressed to wanting to run more of Arca in the late 90s, early 2000s. I enjoy Arca. I think Arca is the closest family there is. I went back and forth with NASCAR and, nothing against NASCAR owns Arca now. I just did more about the family, the closeness, and not so much the corporate side back then because you know what, obviously it's blown up so much. If you take Arca today, probably isn't even if you took a Cup Series back in the mid 90s and 96, 97, it's probably not even as corporate as Arca is now. It just was so different. I don't know how to explain it, but Arca it's just been a family. So it's kind of involved into this again. You're getting so corporate, so much money, so much everything, but it is the series I still care the most about.
Yeah. Well, and that's what Ed and all those guys said. They said we should have never left Arca. They said that was the best place to be as far as that goes, as far as the cost and being able to recoup a little bit through the year and do all that stuff. But then they all had the big aspirations to the next level and went on up. So I know we talked a little bit before and we're going to delve off into it. So you go to NASCAR as a team owner. You told me that NASCAR has a little bit of different, how do I want to say this and say it nicely? I don't know. They have a whole lot more control over what you bring to the racetrack.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
can you start with what your first run in with that when you first realized that?
My first run in, because it was different. Remember, it was different in the late 90s, early 2000s. Things weren't quite like Dick and I always used to say you could drag somebody out of a cornfield and throw them in a Cup car, and you really could back in the day. There was no driver, all this resume and all this stuff. They evolved and you have to get approval for everything. And yeah, I had a real run-in with them back in 2006 over some sponsorship stuff they wouldn't allow and they were going to allow, not going to allow, and stood on me pretty hard with some, getting through tech and things like that because they've been calling me the outlaw since it has nothing to do with my legal trouble. Everybody thinks, oh, he's just a jerk that's been in trouble and that's why he's now. It has nothing to do with that. I've kicked against the grain on this stuff since the beginning of time. And, I've always been a fighter when it comes to that. And, I ran some political stuff they didn't want. And yeah, we had some run-ins, some real good run-ins. I've been, had my, I think I was telling you before I had my 2006, I had a truck at Martinsville and they didn't want no part of it after they said it was good to go. And they came to my shop and approved it and all this. And, they didn't want it there, so I took it out, and they wanted to find me for every little thing they could find and put every template on it. And I just said, that's it. I'm going back Arca racing. And what was really, really troublesome for me, and a lot of people don't know, I worked really hard because my partner, they own New Hampshire International Speedway. When their kids got killed up there, we worked really, really hard to come up with a safer way to race. And myself and Dick Bear, my company, and Dick was the brains behind what we did for setting up for crashing cars, but we crashed a bunch of cars, and I paid Delphi to come out there and get the data. We crashed a bunch of cars at New Hampshire, North Wilkesboro. We were testing safer barriers. We were working on some of our own products, some of the products that were with other companies. NASCAR would get all the data. They were just, you're the greatest guys in the world and all that stuff. But it just, like they say, you're only as good as your last race. I guess you're only as good as what you are the next day. And so I always just supported NASCAR very strongly, and so did Dick Bear. And I would have done anything for the sport, or for anybody in the sport. I think that a lot of people don't know that. I mean, James Hilton was struggling so much in 2006. He didn't have anything going into 2007. He couldn't even run his team. And I didn't need to run his number. I ran his number, my team did, and give him the entire purse money. And no one will ever dispute this, including Arca will tell you that this is what it was. We give James the entire purse money all year long. I didn't take one penny, went right to him. All I did was run my number on all my cars for him to help get him back on his feet. Now, James and I went back. I've known James since I was a kid. But, I've always believed in that. And it's no secret I got myself in some trouble. And I'll never sit back and say that I was a guy that didn't do anything wrong. Listen, I'll just call it like I was. I made a lot of shit ass choices when things were coming down on me. Some people got hurt with me. They know who they are. I communicate with them. I try my best. I'm trying to, I'm building businesses, which isn't easy this day and age right now. I trying to do the right thing for what I did. I mean, it is what it is. I don't make no light of it. I ran from the cops during that stuff. I laid in a bean field across the street when they were looking for me at my shop in Lake Odessa. I mean, during that time, I did some things like that. I was scared. I didn't want to lose everything that I worked for. And I ended up losing everything that I worked for, not by my own hands, but by individuals. And it ended up happening anyways. If I would have been a smart man, which I never claimed to be the smartest guy in the world, all I had was a little old absconding warrant out of North Carolina that I had 2 years of probation that I'd already done, and I only had 6 months, 8 months left on it. I didn't want to go in and lose everything that I worked for. Right. And going into 2016, I had everything lined out to race 2016 with still having my warrant. I planned on going in and turning myself in. And then and we can talk about that if you want to talk about it. Then some things really blew up, not at my own doing. So I never want to bring any bad light to this sport or to anyone, or to try and, I'm not perfect. I will never, I don't ever want anyone to think that I make light of what I did, because I don't, or anyone that got during the process.
Yeah. Well, and I told you this on the phone. Anybody sitting out there in watching it at home, I'll tell you, nobody's perfect. We get that. There is no ifs, ands, and buts. So let's talk about it, because I tried to do a little bit research before we come on there. The only thing I seen online or looked into was a tax evasion situation. I don't know if that's a product of what you're talking up, building up to it, or what happened.
No, that was part of it. What ended up getting me in a situation was that this is a story, Roy, and I'm going to try to speed through it. Okay.
Okay.
After I left, I had a 30,000 square foot shop in Lake Odessa, Michigan, my hometown, which is embarrassing for me. It was down from my school. We were going to do an apprentice program for the kids in the high school for where I was in auto mechanics. And So when all that blew up there, and I want to get into that a little deeper, but when that blew up there, I took off because I didn't have anything. And I said, I'd be quite frankly, the hell with this. I'm not going to sit in jail for 8 months. I mean, no, it sounds so stupid, but when you're faced with that, people don't know the decisions they make.
Right.
So I went up to Sugar Island in Michigan, and I actually bought a bar and a restaurant, and we turned that bar and restaurant that was making nothing, $300 a day, to where it was an extremely successful business in a short period of time. And the somebody, had turned me in for being up there, and there was a cop that came looking for me. And of course, being me, hey, the cops are looking for me. I'm burning up the pavement. I managed to get off the island while he was looking for me. And it really upset them. They started serving search warrants at my house in Sugar Island looking for me. They went everywhere. I really made them mad. They're a very small police department, county up there. And they got me for something that I will stand on. I'll admit anything I ever did. I did not do a single thing of what I was accused of. They actually got me for using one of my rental units, because I was in the RV rental business too, for using one of my rental units for personal use.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular unit was strictly bought from the customer to use for my personal use. They never filed no complaints or anything on me. It was the state did. And that's my first experience of ever knowing that the state can pick a case up without a victim, because they can say you did it anyways, even if the person they're saying you did it to won't say that they're a victim. So, and that was all vindictiveness. And I that's all that was. But I did it to myself. I should have never been running, should have never got myself in that position, should have never took those steps. And the only one to blame is me, because that's the choices I made. Yeah. But that's what happened. And then, it just snowballed into a bunch of mess. And I created it all. If I would have turned myself in, there would have been no charge for that. They wouldn't have been going to my houses looking, trying to find something, found one of my rental units sitting outside my property at my house in Sugar Island. I just did it to myself.
Yeah. So I have to ask you something, because I know a little something about Michigan, and we're going to get into this. And I'm going to bring up Michigan and racers, because there's a guy in Ionia, Michigan that I met. He owns the porn shop and trailer wash and wrecker service in Ionia. His last name is Bustle.
Okay.
His son raced in Indy Lights, modifieds all over in Michigan. And I learned a lot from dealing with him. He antagonizes local law enforcement in Ionia to no end. He goes out and videotapes them doing shady stuff. And he is it something with racers and in that area where they're constantly doing something to poke law enforcement maybe?
Well, I can tell you, but getting back, so this is you're segueing me into back to Lake Odessa, Michigan, because that's Ionia County there. So, what had happened with me, and I'm going back to this, and this is where I'm going to tell what really happened with my race team, because this is anyone that is close to me knows. What people don't realize is that Bobby Hamilton went on and screwed half of my drivers after he got them from me. What most people don't realize is Bobby Hamilton got me first.
Right.
Bobby Hamilton had a contract with me first to race with me. All right.
Is this senior or junior?
Junior. Oh, senior was already passed away. This is junior. This is in 2015. Okay. He was driving my 97 car full time for me. So we had an agreement for him to pay, obviously, money to drive each race. And in Talladega, this is how bad it was. This is all I was getting from him. At Talladega, he gave me $2,000. That was the end of it. I never got another dime from him. He was supposed to be paying all the sponsors he said he was bringing. He did. He brought Troop Aid to the car. I'm like, this is a reputable organization. Why ain't they paid us yet? I'm going over and asking Bobby, what is going on? They haven't paid us. They haven't paid me. I can't keep funding this team without funding. And, he'll take care of it. I got you. He'll take care of it. Well, it so happened I'm at Salem and the Troop Aid guy's there. And I had to ask him, I said, man, I've been running your name on this car and stuff, and Bobby keeps saying you're going to pay. He says, what are you talking about? I've been paying Bobby. So Bobby wasn't paying me. So I go into June at the Michigan race, and keep in mind, he's, I don't know, 3 foot tall or something. I mean, he's short as can be. So I got the car set up for him. I'm mad as hell by Michigan. I'm fuming. He didn't pay me. I can't pay my bills. I'm running new tires. I'm leasing an Ilmore engine for $9,000 a race. We're 7th in points. We're going in there. That's why I was robbing Peter to pay Paul so bad, was because I wanted to keep that 97 car in points, because we were finally starting to get some sponsorships, some things. And that's where the choices I made, and some people got hurt because I was funding that 97 because there was no money coming in for it. So I'm so mad by Michigan, because we go to a hotel. I forget where we're staying at, and I stay in relatively budget hotels. He had this girl that was making reservations for us, booked us at a hotel for $250 a night, and I got 5 rooms. And I'm like, we don't do that. I can't do this. So we had a blow up there. We get to the racetrack. He's saying things and just being Bobby. Hasn't paid me. So I fired him there. I went into the Arca trailer and I said, you guys be upset? I'm going to have to get rid of this guy. So we had a phone. I told him, out, gone. And I couldn't find nobody to fit in the car. We were in the inspection line for qualifying when I fired him. That's how this happened. So I couldn't find nobody to fit in the car. I mean, my leg wouldn't fit in his seat. So I couldn't find a single person. So I had no choice. He come back crawling to me. Can we work this out? Can we work this out? Yeah. Okay. I really don't have a choice. So let's get through this race and we'll talk about it. Well, he goes out there. We're running 6th or 7th. I mean, great. We always ran pretty good with him. Top 10, top 12, whatever. He goes out there and deliberately crashes my best car. And at the time, I didn't know it. Okay, people were telling me, he crashed that car on purpose, right? And I'm like, no, he wouldn't have done that. There's no way anybody would do that as good as we were running. Well, I kept being told that. We go on to Chicago. And the next week I had to completely build a new car, and we rushed and did it. Go to Chicago. I short one car, old poor Kevin Hinkle a car. Kevin Hinkle probably took the biggest brunt of my messes because of trying to keep Bobby Jr. moving. So we go to there in Chicago, we run, and here's another thing. I'm trying to go fast to tell this. I had leased a shop in Nashville from his wife was a real estate agent. So she gives me a lease. I sign a lease. Everything's good. I have a phone number to talk to the landlord. So I'm talking to the landlord. He would never call me. It was always texting. I said, I need to talk to you about some things. Texting. Long story short, I never leased the building from anyone. They leased the building. She gave me a fake lease agreement. It was actually, I had no rights to that building. So we come back from Chicago. I put all my stuff in this building in Nashville. I go back, and they locked me out of everything. He put chain and padlocks on my travel trailer, locked my race cars in, took all the license plates off my hauler. I mean, just took everything. Well, that doesn't settle for me. So I had some, I know some, I know people. So I sent some guys down at 3 a.m, and I cut the locks and went back in there and got in the shop and took everything that I could that was mine. So this guy, we're moving forward now. He knows I have these warrants, and he was pressuring on me, everywhere I went, sending cops, doing this because he wanted to put me out of business. I had everything in Michigan at the time. Me and him had parted ways. We were done, and we were doing fine. So when what Bobby was doing was he kept them cops on me. So to fast forward to a couple months later, I come back to the shop, and there's a guy named Brad Hodges, which is another one. I speak it like it is. I don't care if they're listening or not. He's a piece of garbage. And they work together, and I'm in the camper out back of the shop, and Brad Hodges knocks on my door, and he's acting like a bondsman that's going to take me to jail, and that wasn't going to happen. So I got out of that situation, how I had to get out of it. And then I'm walking in front, the cops are coming around and all that stuff. So to make the long story short, I run from that. I couldn't go back to the shop. So Bobby, this Brad Hodges, and another guy that, shouldn't have done what he did, they cleaned me out. Bobby ended up with a hauler that belonged to someone else that I had leased, and they took a bunch of cars, parts, everybody, I mean, Brett Hodges put it right on Facebook. Hey, I got these cars for sale and they were mine. Okay, they cleaned the shop out 100% from me. So that's how it ended up in that situation. A lot of people don't realize how bad I got hit by him too. This was not a person that was paying his bills every week. And what's really frustrating for me is there's some people. I had a PR guy. Well, I guess he's a woman now. I don't know. He's transitioned. I don't know, but he's a woman guy, whatever. But he knew everything, and he had the contract. And when all this stuff happened, it's like Rogers this, Rogers that, Rogers this. The people that really knew what was going on didn't stand up and say, "Hey, this is not all true." Some did. I have some really dear friends that did stick by me.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you right here because we just had some messages come in. Jordan Williams says, "Who was the other guy? You missed it. So I'm going to name the name, and we're going to talk about it. Was his driver at the time, which was Bobby Hamilton Jr. This is who he's referring to in where the split up happened, and that was with Bobby Hamilton Jr.
Right.
So you had kind of told me a little bit about this, and I did some research, and I tried to be prepared for this as we're getting into this, talking about this. It's interesting you've said all this about Bobby Hamilton Jr. because he went down and took out a whole bunch, and this is public news. You guys can go look through it. It's all over the racing pages. It's all over. Not what you're talking about, what I'm visiting to talk about.
Right.
He went and took pardon my language when I say this, but an ass load of money out to buy a racetrack in Nashville.
Yep.
Apparently ran it into the ground, pulled a gun on a competitor, did all kinds of stuff. And I don't know Bobby Hamilton, so if you're listening, don't take it personal, dude. I don't know you. I'm reading the news. So that's all we're regurgitating is what's in the papers. But then he's ended up bankrupt and busted anyway. So it sounds like some of his karma caught up to him along the way too. Is that's coming across now.
Well, it's a lot deeper than that because he stole a lot of money. See, the only difference is, and again, I want to keep stressing because people misinterpret that I'm not pushing blame on anybody.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize, there's a difference between getting in financial trouble and dealing with problems, even though if you did it to yourself, even if you made bad decisions, or absolutely being a shit ass crook that goes out and steals everything, gets a bunch of drivers to drive for him and steals hundreds of thousands of dollars from them to never plan on going racing. Yeah. I've never done that in my entire life. Anything I've ever done is I love racing. I spend my last dollar on racing. So that's a whole different animal. I know what he did to one of my very dear friends. He got them to get 30 grand from a woman and took it, and they went on a Florida vacation with it before they went and spending money before Daytona and never paid the woman back her 30 grand. There's a lot of things like that are absolute truth. This is what the point I'm trying to make is that I had help during that time. It wasn't that I set out to just be a bad guy and have bad things happen and take people's. I'm going to state it as clearly as I'll say it as strong as I can. I don't give a shit about money. I'm not a greedy. I could care less. And everybody that's close to me knows that. What I do care about is racing is my life. And I wouldn't take from racing. I take elsewhere to put in racing that's got me in messes. So that's total polar opposite. That's all I'm trying to say is that when this all transpired, if he would have stayed out of the situation, I know my team would have been functioning to this day. That's a fact.
Well, Jerry Stewart added to it, said the cops would still be looking for that Bobby's head. And then somebody, guys, I'm getting new people that I don't know have joining in. Got Jordan Williams in here. Says he tried to get me to sign a 4-race deal. I backed out, and everyone that did sign never ran a race for Bobby Jr. Terrence Cleve, me too. So apparently people have had these same experiences. So it's not just you.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the point of this. I haven't said anything, and that's why I said it the other day when I posted I've been taking the high road, because my problem is that anytime you bring up something that happened to you, in my situation, it's Carter's just skating the issue. He's just, and I don't. I never once. I always say I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done. And I
So,
feel terrible about a lot of it.
so I'm going to go right on the record now because you and I talked about this. So we're going to throw this. I'm going to throw something out there for everybody that watches this because it's interesting how this person came into our life. So we're getting at Alex Club anyway. We're getting a lot of comments now, so we're going to get on this rolling. It's interesting of what you're saying. I met a guy through Facebook who contacted me, and if you want to name names, we'll name names. I don't care. Anyway, he contacted me and got me in touch with a lot of people. That's how I ended up meeting Ed Renzi. That's how I ended up getting Jeremy Mayfield on the show. That got me into some connections to where we have people in that embraced at a highlight or a different level and all this other stuff. But he is a con man, 1,010%. There is no ifs, ands, and buts. And you told me, and I'm going to let you go into the story with him too. And there is a lot of them around the North Carolina area. I'm finding out, and with all this stuff, and I'm not there. That's not my. I don't know crap about North Carolina other than I loved rodeo in there and I love barbecue from there. So we're going to leave it at that and love North Carolina. Is there a lot of that, y'all, that you see a lot of that going on? And guys that are listening out there, please share because we want to hear about that.
There is and there isn't. It seems to be more as of late, and that's what bothers me that I get balled into this category because that's why so many don't know my history, but NASCAR and Arca do. That's why I was allowed to go back and race. That's why I'm back and race this year, and they treated me great. There's a difference. But yeah, there's a lot of that goes on because there's so much money in it. So if you can put your way in, there are people that don't know how to do it, so they do it the crooked way. So they try to get involved in the sport by using another team owner, using people, like yourself, the platforms, trying to get their name out there, and they really don't have a name. I know who you're talking about. He's never raced anything in his life up until the last couple of years. He's done a couple things, and every path he crosses, there's some kind of turmoil left behind.
He left no turmoil behind to me personally because I ain't got shit. So what are you
right?
Yeah, I got a mouth. That's it. That's what we talk about. So, but I know you said he got the Gene Haas and some other people, which surprised me because
it was a situation where he was taking advantage of a woman that Gene Haas and his wife knew. And I had gotten a phone call from them about that. I guess it's this kind of MO that he
just chases women. He's a horn dog.
Yeah. And, takes what he gets and then gone and that type of thing. So, yeah, I had a run in with him. I think I'll leave it at that. I don't want to, throw too much, out there because I know exactly who you're talking about.
If you want to know who we're talking about, scroll back through all of our broadcasts. You'll find him.
Yeah.
He was on here for a few weeks and then gone, so we'll leave it at that. But
let's say that I dealt with him in 2013, and it was a bit of a turmoil situation. So,
yeah. So I was just wondering. I mean, spill the beans. Who is it? All right, Alex Club, Steve Austin. And not the coach Steve Austin. Fuck it, I'll say it. I don't care.
That's what I tell you. That's why I love Alex. He's like me. Alex don't care what people think, man. He just says it like it is. And that's how I am. And you just live life that way. Yeah, he's right.
Well, and ladies, if you're watching, ladies, and you got even an ounce of attraction, he will contact you through your Facebook Messenger, ask you for millions of dollars, all this. Do not just tell him to go the other way. Just don't even bother. So you say horn dog like it's a bad thing, dude. That's what it is. This is border. You have no idea. I'm not even going to get into it on here. It ain't worth the time. But so you went through all of your legal proceedings. You got that. I'm assuming it's all behind you.
It's all behind me. Yeah, it's all
okay. I thought Alex Club was the Arca pimp. He might be. I don't know, Alex. We just got to be friends tonight. So, Alex, welcome to the club, buddy. So, that was from Jordan Williams. So we had Jeremy Mayfield on here, and Jeremy was very, very talkative on here. Because I think he's at the stage in his career where he just don't give a damn. Does not care one way or the other. He just tells you whatever he's got to say.
Right.
So I listened to him shortly after that when he was on the Dale Jr. download, and I learned a lot more because, well, Junior is a part of NASCAR. He knows what goes on behind the curtains. Roy out here in Oregon don't know nothing about NASCAR other than what's on TV. There's a different side to it once you get into it, and we got a little background with that from Jeremy. And it sounds like with your situation, too, is there stuff that goes on the backside of this with all that? Because NASCAR seems like, and I don't know Jeremy. I don't know if he's telling the truth. I don't know if he's not. All I know is what we've heard from him. Do you think that NASCAR somewhat did some of the things that he mentioned that brought on some of the heat, or did maybe Jeremy bring some of that heat on himself?
I know Jeremy, and I consider him a friend. To give you, I've known Jeremy a long time. Mm-hmm. Chris Lafferty and I are good friends, and I'm going to state publicly here that Chris Lafferty is the best man in the world. He stood by me. He is one of the few that stood by me and took care of my stuff, and what little I had left, I ended up just giving him what I had left because he's such a good man.
Yeah.
Him and Jeremy Mayfield, I had some stuff left in my shop in North Carolina when I was in Michigan when it all blew up and I was hiding out. So Jeremy Mayfield and Chris Lafferty both moved all my stuff out of the shop for me and put it to just two great, awesome people. Jeremy is a guy that, I believe a lot of what he says. I know how vindictive things can be if you don't play the game. I think Jeremy's always kind of, will say the same thing. I don't think his hands are clean on everything because I don't think anybody's are. I'm not saying he did anything drug wise or anything because I know none of that. I'd be totally wrong for ever saying something like that. Mm-hmm. But I know that everybody, we all have some skeletons in our closet. I'm sure that Jeremy and everybody else has some. I think they were exploited with him just like they happened because he's got that name and they really ran with it. It's a story. If the general public loves people to fail. I mean, that's just how it is. They want you to be, they love misery, man. And they're not going to, so the public was never going to be on his side. As far as NASCAR, I know NASCAR how they are, and Jeremy chose the road to fight them. And that is a losing proposition. That's a no-win either way. When you sign that paper and everybody knows that you abide by their rules and their rules only, and their rules is what it is. And their rules are interpretation of how they interpret them, not how you interpret them. They have absolute power, and if they have to exercise it, they will. And, so that going in. So you're not going to fight something like that because once they were that upset with him, it was a no-win situation unless he went and did what they asked to do. Now, he stood on principle and says he didn't do anything, wasn't doing that, and he stood on his principles. So God bless him. I mean, I would have loved to have seen him just go through the program and go back racing.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned this, and when he was on Junior show, you're the same age group as I am. They're roughly in our same age group. They're all between about 48 and 55 in this whole group. I'm 53. I think you're 53 or 54.
54.
Junior's like 48, 49. Jeremy's right in that age group and all that stuff. And I have to comment, Jordan Williams said Chris was a way better teammate than Bobby Jr. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with Jordan.
So I went in the Navy at 17. It went through boot camp, and tail hook had just happened. If everybody remembers what that was all about, we were kind of the kindergarten class of all the sexual harassment. We were the kindergarten class for the new drug testing programs. We were the start from the old traditional Navy to the more new what it is. We were right in the middle with everything. So when you heard Junior talking about it and you heard Jeremy, those guys, NASCAR came in and said, we're going to drug test. They didn't say what was a banned substance. They didn't say what wasn't a banned substance. They just said, you failed a drug test.
Right.
Now, something that I have noticed with NASCAR, they never tell you what you failed for.
Right.
Okay. All it is, it's a big headline. You failed a drug test. Well, okay. So what did the person fail the drug test for? Was it for over-the-counter aspirin?
Right.
What did you actually test for? It seemed to me, this is an outsider that has nothing to do with the sport. I want to make sure, clarify that. So I'm asking somebody that's been in the sport. Did you know what they were going to test for, or does NASCAR use that as a situation to where if you're stepping out of line and they want you to toe the line a little better, they just throw that out there? And I'll bring up why I asked that question when I hear what you have to say.
No, I mean, they come and get you and tell you, hey, you got to go take a drug test right now. They can show up at your shop with the drug test. They can drug test everyone, and they'll do that. So I don't think they necessarily don't tell you what they're testing you for drugs. I'm sure that probably it's a spectrum of drugs that they look for. But yeah, no, they don't tell you what they're specifically looking for. But with that being said, though, you do know there is a prescription drug thing. You have to let them know what you're taking. You have to show them your pill bottles. If you're taking prescription drugs, and certain ones you can't be taking while you're racing. And I mean, that's kind of spelled out there. Now, I don't know when Jeremy was going, because this is what I'm talking about now.
Right.
Because you got to remember, this drug test thing came about. I'm gonna throw a year out here. I'm probably right or wrong, but I want to say in the 2000s, early 2000s, maybe. Time flies. I don't know. Maybe it was earlier or later, but it wasn't like, it certainly wasn't around when I got in the sport. There wasn't no drug testing going on. You just had to get a physical if you were breathing and you had a heart or you had a pulse. Get in the car. So I want to say early 2000s, somewhere in there. And I think it's evolved, and then it evolved into, we can come to your shop and we can do this or call you and you got to go get it in when we, tell you and all this business.
2009.
2009. See, that's what I say. I didn't think it was all that long ago. So, it's evolved into being more serious now. I don't really do the NASCAR thing, so I know theirs is probably a step harder than Arca's is. Arca's, you go and you take the little test and you do it, and it's still a test. I don't know if NASCAR's is exactly that same. I do know the difference because I forget what year it was, but they came by the shop and tested some of my guys because we were doing some NASCAR stuff, and I forget what year that was. So I know
Alex Club said the list for Arca is about 3 pages long. It is for the DOT too. I mean, I take drug tests for driving a truck, and I think ours is 20 pages long. I mean, it's, you name it, it's on there. So
right. Now, see, I'm the guy that goes in there. I've been a lot of things, done a lot of things. I never worry about a drug test. So I'm like, okay, that's one thing I can do right. Give it to me.
That's me. I've been taking random drug tests since I was 17 years old. And in the Navy, somebody stands right there, right beside you, watching the whole time. I mean, if you got bladder sinus, you get over it real quick. So we'll just leave it at that.
That's the funny thing. My past, there's never been no drugs or DUIs, none of that stuff. It's just, so I never really cared,
So I'm asking you that part of it to build up to what I'm saying, because Tyler Walker fell to this as well. He admittedly guilty, though. We were just talking about Tyler Walker off air, and we're not going to go down that road. We're not going to talk about that because it's not relevant to this discussion. But anyway, so you got, at the level of racing that we're talking about, whether it be Xfinity, Cup, possibly trucks, you have an entourage that takes care of everything. And I've touched on this a little bit with some people that we've had on here, actually having to go through their PR person. It's a whole lot different world getting to talk to certain people in the sport. And it's, I didn't know nothing about it, but I've learned. So we'll just leave it at that. But you see all these guys, like when they get out of a wreck, you see them get on the golf cart and there's 20 people around them following them everywhere they're going. So AJ Allmendinger failed a drug test for amphetamines. I'm thinking that's what it was. He said it was for Adderall. Basically, he said he had a headache or something, and one of his people gave him a pill. He took it and popped positive. Now, at that level of racing, is there people that are there that would be in that situation? I'm just asking you, what you've seen and what you've experienced?
Roy, I'd be a hard one to say that because I don't hang around with guys that are at that level of racing. So, when I was in the Cup Garage and stuff again, it was years ago when we ran nationwide back in 2006, 7, 8, whatever it was. Like I say, things are a little bit different then. I guess it depends on who you're with. I would assume that they do. From what I see being inside the garage area, there's people all around that help them do everything, carry their bag for them. If it, everything from if it's sprinkling, holding their umbrella, which, I could never get into that kind of thing, no matter how much money I had. So yeah, I would say that probably there is people that handle a lot of things with that. I like AJ a lot. He's a great guy, but I mean, I know myself, there ain't nobody going to hand me no damn pill and somebody put it in my mouth. Here you go, unless I really trusted and knew what it was.
Right.
So I don't know about that. So, because I could certainly tell you, I wouldn't take no pill from me. I'd probably take one from my wife because she's a nurse, But other than that, no, I couldn't see somebody handing somebody a pill and saying, "Here it is, take it." You know what I'm trying to say? I don't know, but
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you got your PR person or whatever, that's kind of your trusted circle. So it's one of those. It sounds like it could possibly happen, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So, so after knowing what happened to Jeremy and all the bullshit he went through, and I'm looking at this as the person that's out here that I don't have anything to do with the sport. So you see them all crash into Jeremy and some other people along the way, and you mentioned a name, Nate Ellerson. So what did you think when you woke up to the headlines of somebody in the Franz family getting popped for having illegal drugs, and then basically, how do I want to say, trying to intimidate a cop in that situation? How did you feel when you woke up to that news?
Well, I don't think at any level of anyone is immune. We could have a conversation all day on this because I could tell you about a lot of team owners and cup owners and things and people within that garage area that have done a lot of things in the past that people seem to forget. And even probably some current at this point that have done some things that seem to go away. I think that everyone should be treated exactly the same. If NASCAR is going to enforce rules on us that we are supposed to carry ourselves as, role models or however you want to call it, or ambassadors of the sport, I think them same rules apply to them. So the punishment should be the same if it's an executive in NASCAR or if it's a driver or if it's a team owner or if it's everything should be across the freaking board. There should be no favoritism, no special, nothing should be different because someone's a broke, low dollar team or you're a multi-million-dollar cup team or you are the sanctioning body. If you're enforcing these rules, it should be 100% across the board. And I've seen them do that and I've seen them not do it. So there's been numerous times that I shake my head and go, I could have never got away with that. And, and I think that probably a lot of people say the same thing. But you have to be at a level, and it's that way in life anyways. It's that way in everything we do. If you're at this level, the rules don't apply to you. If I was at that level, I wouldn't have been in any trouble. You know what I'm saying? In society, because this level it has a lot of options. So I guess it's the same. It trickles down to the same thing. Society has kind of set that bar. If you're, a multi-millionaire, ultra successful, this and that, you get different breaks than the guy that's killing himself on the bottom of the barrel. You're going to get something way different. I mean, so yeah, I think that they should handle it exactly how they handle it with all of us.
All right. So you told me this is going back into, and I should sum this up into hypocrisy that we're witnessing and things like that when we're talking about it. So you told me you ran a wrap or paint design, whatever you want to call it, in there that was about prison reform.
Yes.
Okay. You already know where I'm going with it.
Yeah,
I talked about it. You already know where I'm going with this. So I want you to tell us the story about what you did in that situation and what you ended up having to go to. And then I want to go into the subject of what I want to go into this. We're already up to almost an hour. So if you got to go, let me know.
I'm sitting in a hotel room doing nothing by myself, so it's fine.
All right. So I want you to explain that. And then I have somewhere I want to go with this and get your thoughts on it.
So back in 2006, I had an organization that I formed myself that was affiliated with a company called, or another organization called FedCure and FAM, which is Families Against Mandatory Minimums. I'm a big justice reform guy. And the reason that I am is because I know how corrupt the system is, and people, everyone will say, oh, they belong in jail, they belong in this, until their loved one gets involved in something and they realize how railroaded they really are. So I've been in this reform for years, and I got a lot of support. I had 13 congressmen involved in it. And it was a big deal. And I was spending some money. This wasn't like I was, not spending money in some low level deal. I had, airplanes at the time, and we were shuffling some congressmen around and doing a lot of stuff and putting a lot of pressure on the government to make some changes. But at any rate, I came to NASCAR and I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. I want to go to run the Bristol truck race. I didn't have much, I didn't have much racing experience back then. I'll give them that. But I had got tentative approval to go run the Bristol race. And so I said, okay. So then I turned my sponsor in, all that stuff, and it was freefreds.org at the time, and FedCure and that. They did, and I had a bunch of national stuff going on. There was some mention on one of the late night talk shows. Everything what we were doing had a lot of press behind it. So they said, yeah, everything's fine. Well, right when I was getting ready, after all the press releases I was at, they said you can't run that sponsor at Bristol. You can't run that sponsor. They said it's political. NASCAR is not involved in any political stuff ever. So, of course, being me, I said, you're wrong. It's not true. So I pulled all their political stuff up, all their presidential stuff, all at the time, all the political stuff they ran, all these organizations, and sent it to them. So then they said, well, if we did allow the sponsor, you're not credentialed to drive there. You'll have to find somebody else. So I don't want to mention, but it was a well-known driver's daughter that I have the utmost respect for. I asked her to drive the car, or drive the truck, and she said she would. And I turned, but this is what got me with NASCAR. So I turned her resume in, which was less than mine at the time, and they approved her. Here we go with the difference in society, difference names and all that stuff. Bam, you're approved. So I called up NASCAR and I said, well, I did that I want her to drive, okay? But I said, I did that also to see my resume is equal to theirs. So why are you canning me? What is the reason? So then they say at that point, you can't run that sponsor. You're done. That sponsor can't go on the truck. I said, okay, I'll regroup this whole thing. Let me think about this a minute. So then they say, well, if you go run a Busch East race at the time, we'll let you drive. And I think I was going to go to the next race, which is Martinsville at that time, because I pulled out of Bristol. All right, I'll go do that. And they said, but don't run that sponsor on your car. Yeah, I won't. I got you. So I did. I ended up putting it on there because I had obligations. I put it on there. They made me go drive all the way to Waterford, Connecticut. I don't know if you ever made that trip up to Waterford, Connecticut from North Carolina, but that's a long drive. I didn't have any intention on doing it. I had to lease a car at the last minute, everything I had to do to make them so I could get my resume to drive. So I go up there and I had the sponsor on the car. Well, no one paid any attention to it. No one paid attention to me. Who's this guy, So I go out there and we qualified. I actually, something got caught in the rotor and I scraped the wall with it, or got caught between the brake and the caliper and the rotor, and I scraped the wall. So we had to work on it. I started last. Well, it was in a really decent car, and I had a Hutter motor, and the car was flying, man. We got up halfway through the field, and the bad thing about it is the engine blew up. I mean, I was running like 10th, and the motor blew sky high, and I got a lot of TV time. Well, it so happened to have that sponsor I wasn't supposed to have on there. And you talk about, boy, NASCAR was not happy about that at all. So they sit me down and said, you have to make all these changes, and so run a different .com on there that links to this, you can, and all this. So I played their game. I did. And they said, oh, by the way, you're approved to drive. If you do this, this sponsor can go on your truck for Martinsville. I said, okay, you good? As long as you do it this way, you're approved to drive. So I bought this Dodge truck, and I had to put basically a whole new body on it, da-da-da-da-da. I called Wayne Otten and everybody over. This is when Wayne Otten was involved in it, in the truck series. He said, oh, that truck's fine. Take it over to, take it to Martinsville. You're good to go. This thing will go through. Well, I get to Martinsville, and I'm in line with the truck, and they're going and doing inspection. And Wayne walks up and goes over to his inspectors like this and says, pull the 54 truck and put every template we got on it. And I'm like, Wayne, you know it's not going to pass every template. There ain't a truck here that will. So he's like, I don't care, do it anyway. So then I go up to the next station. They pull my carburetor off, and they look down, and I had a leased engine in it. Oh, there's scratches in the bottom of your intake. And I said, there's no way. It's leased. I said, it's an Arrington engine. It's leased. And $5,000 fine if you run this truck. So anyways, the long and short of this, they didn't want me there. Plain and simple. They didn't want me there, but that's fine. They didn't want nothing to do with it. They were proving their point. They run the operation. You get that off our track, or we're going to fine you. We're going to make it harder. You're never going to make the race anyway. So I told them, don't bother. I'm loading this thing up, and I'm going back and running 2-car Arca team for as long as I'm not coming back to NASCAR, which wasn't true. I did, but yeah, they make it very, very hard on you if you don't play by the absolute rules. And like I say, I'm the outlaw guy. I've been pushing the envelope with them for 20 years, 25 years. So I'm learning my lesson slowly.
All right. So they said they're not politically affiliated. They say they don't promote politics. They don't do all of this stuff.
Nope. No political.
So I know there was a massive blow up in a recent election. We're not going to name which it was, but it was between Camping World and NASCAR over NASCAR supporting Trump and Camping World not supporting Trump.
Right.
That made national headlines. How is that not politically motivated when your number one sponsor, you tell them, screw you?
It's of course it is. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is that everything has to fit if they're okay with it, if they're okay with it, or not okay with it, or not okay. And again, it's who you are. You could they'll make some concessions for you. I mean, like I say, during that time, and that's why I went and rented an Arca because, they let me. It's like, okay. And if you go back and look at every one of my cars, every one that I ever ran back in the days, everything on the rear spoiler said save the U.S. Constitution. Every car I ever ran was a constitutional car. There's something about the Constitution on it everywhere. And I had been doing that for years. You're not going to do that now. You're not going to put the save the U.S. Constitution on a car now. And in fact, I've been doing it. If you look at every one of them, I run it on the back side of the spoiler. So it says save the U.S. Constitution. When you look out your mirror, there it says save the U.S. Constitution. You can see it. Arca even pulled you can't run anything on the back side of your spoilers anymore. They don't want any of that stuff. And it's crazy because it seems like if you're supporting something that is legitimate, that has legitimate ties to it, that, how can you fight against the U.S. Constitution? Why is that why all of a sudden is the Constitution a cuss word?
Yeah, I agree. Dude, I'm a disabled veteran. We got a lot of veterans watching. You don't have to argue with me on this one. And I don't bring up certain controversial things because it's not. And I'm going to ask Jordan Williams. I don't know if he's any relation to Josh Williams or not. If he is, I had Josh on here briefly till his phone went down. That was interesting going through his PR person when he came on the show, because that was one of my first experiences with it. And it's a lot of what we're talking about right now that I found very interesting. It seems like there's a lot of double standards in that whole situation. And I just wondering, it sounds like it's a pain in the ass to deal with if you don't know the truth of the matter. I'm interested to know about it, but
it is. I guess if again, it goes back to if you're at a different level than I am or have been in the past, it's probably not a big a pain in the ass as it is, for the guys that have all the people to handle that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I miss the old days, Roy, man. I miss the 80s, the late 80s, the early 90s, mid 90s, even up to early 2000s. I mean, things were just, we were just good old boys that had fun. We got, everybody, man, you would fight. You'd be at the, you go out and have a good time, get into some fight. I mean, even physical fights with your, somebody from another team, whatever it is. Then you go to the racetrack, everything's fine. Nobody cared. It wasn't all political and, oh, he's terrible, this and that. That's why there's a lot of carryover from, like you're saying, our guys' age, how much things have changed. It used to be a lot of fun to go to the racetrack, hang out, and go out places. Well, Mike, you can't do it anymore. You can't even go out and have a couple drinks because you got a sponsor. You got this. Oh, they're mad because you drank or you said something wrong on. I mean, it's like me now. I'm scared. I don't put a lot of stuff on Facebook anymore because I'm so afraid something's going to be misinterpreted because everyone knows me that I've got a mouth on me. I tell it how it is. And it's like, I'm so afraid they're going to misinterpret something, and then I'm going to be in the hot seat for it,
Well, and I think it was funny you mentioned that you're good friends with Bob Pockerass. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. But he didn't want to do it do one of these shows with you because of his affiliation with Fox. And it's like, why not?
I talked to Bob when I first came home, and I used to talk to Bob quite a bit, on Facebook. We ain't like best friends or anything. But I know him. I've seen him at the racetrack and all that stuff. Bob's always been good to me. Bob is, to my knowledge, has never said anything derogatory. So I asked him, I wanted to do something with him because I trust him. I always wanted to talk to somebody that I trust. He's an absolute trustworthy journalist. And that's, again, like you said, you don't want to talk to someone that's going to turn on you. And I trusted him. So I wanted to talk and have some things on some kind of forum on, this is years ago before he's so big like he is now, but he was just getting affiliated with that. And I think that it scares people. And that's what's so sad about it is that, man, this sport was built off of people that had a lot of problems. And especially, my age group, things are different. These young kids don't realize what things were like back, 30 years ago. I'm not condoning anything that people do wrong. I'm just saying the fact of the matter is that we're still human beings. NASCAR people are human beings. People in the NFL, all this, everybody has issues. Everyone when they look in that mirror, if you can't say you don't have some kind of skeleton, some kind of thing that you really don't want somebody to know about, I think you're fooling yourself. So
we all do, and I got to respond. Jordan Williams said that he's not related to Josh, and then Alex Clubb said they won't even let him run his Alex J. Clubb for mayor logos. So, well, this show that we do here it's to promote racing. Yes, we talked a little bit behind the doors about your history, things like that. But at the end of the day, this is to bring people to our weekly Saturday night racing. I enjoy talking with people that I'd never talked to before. I'm always looking for guests on here. I just don't know how to get hold of people. Right. I don't have connections in the business, so we talk to our local race. I have zero connections. It's not like I can pick up the phone and call. And I got Ed Renzi, and we had him on last week, and it was funny. We talked to. He had already had a bottle of wine before we started.
Right.
Okay. If anybody that's paid attention, Ed don't give a damn what he says, and he makes no bones about it, even when he's sober completely. He doesn't care. And I told him before we went live, and there were some witnesses to this. I said, Ed, do not burn your personal relationships. Don't put yourself out there to where whatever you say on the show is going to get back and somebody's going to have their feelings. Don't do that for this, because this is not what we're about. And Ed looked right in here and he says, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
He said, if they don't like what I got to say, then maybe they shouldn't listen. Right. And he said, don't worry about any of that. And Ed is, and I guess at his stage and all of his accomplishments, he's got zero left to prove. He just gets on here and just has a ball. He loves racing just like any Saturday night racer. He just loves racing. And that's everybody we have on here. We all love racing. And, we want to build our sport. And that's why I like doing this. And I mean, there's a lot of people in here talking that I've never spoke to on here tonight. And that's very cool. It's more people coming in here. So if you're watching, please reach down and share this. Share this to your personal page. Get it out there, because I enjoy doing it. I don't have I have some sponsors. I have Workman's Communication. I have Jay's Mobile Welding and Fabrication. I got VIP Medical Concierge, Winning Attitude Motorsports. these are all personal friends that support racing. Workman has done so much for me with getting this on the ground. Like I said, he's the one that brought me to this format. He takes care of my internet while I'm on the road to do this. Jay has started Speed Union TV, him and his wife, Emily. Wonderful people, do more for racing than anybody ever knows or ever can talk about. Lyle Hopper with Winning Attitude Motorsports does a lot for the Tri-State Pro Stock Series that we promote. MTFX Graphics did my banners and stuff that are up here. That's a great graphics guy. There you go. So, I met all these people and they support what I'm doing on here. They love talking about racing. They love what we're doing. And I would love any of you guys that want to reach out and come on the show, reach out. I return messages. I don't bite, I promise. I told that when we talked before, it's like, dude, I'm not going to be a gotcha moment. I just going to get in here and bullshit about racing.
I knew that from watching you. And then when you messaged me, because I was, commenting on there, I knew that about you a few times. And that's what I don't like going on somewhere where they're going to, make this about, how horrible, I am. I've already dealt with my demons. I don't need somebody to keep reminding me of the problem of what it is. I just try to move forward, be a better person. I'm building my team back, as I say. I run with Alex because I trust Alex with my life. I want to get back to being a respectable car owner and doing what I have to do. And I'll get there. This is a year. This is part of the reason I wanted to do this and come out with some of this stuff, is because this is the year that I really plan on starting to really focus on building that team back. I'm going to run with Alex as much as he'll allow me to. I'm going down and testing with him next month and run a few laps. So NASCAR and Arca will be happy with my old ass. And, so I can get in a car and go where I want to after that. So yep. It's important to have somebody like yourself that you can trust. I know you don't get a lot of, I'll call it outlaws like me on here, that you have to deal with that situation, but
I'm an outlaw. I piss people off all the time. I don't care. I don't try to and apparently do it. So it happens. It is what it is. I got thick skin too. So, hey, Rob Henry, my buddy Rob Henry from the Navy's in here listening. So, hey, I just seen your post on there. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining in. If any of you ARCA teams are out here on the West Coast, send me an invite. I'd love to go in the pits one time at one of these big races. There you go. I'd love to go.
Yeah, I'm sure Alex will send you one for March.
I'll
speak for him. So go to Phoenix.
Are y'all racing out here?
Phoenix is probably about as close as we get to you.
Oh, man. Phoenix is hot. Y'all are killing me.
Can't be that bad.
People don't do well with the
heat. It's not that bad in March, Roy.
Hey, if it's above 70, it's bad for me.
Yeah. See, I missed I spent most of my life in North Carolina. I missed that weather. I said I'd never move back anywhere north, and I can't stand the cold anymore. So
yeah, Alex said come to Phoenix. I'm assuming that's it. We'll put you on the list. So
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. No, yeah, that's Alex. So yeah, I'll bring a camera. We'll do some filming in the pits and stir up some shit. We'll put you out there. We'll say Alex for mayor. We'll get it out there one way or the other.
Alex will make a great mayor too.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was sarcasm with that or if he's really running for mayor.
No, he's really running for mayor. So
awesome.
He's in politics a little bit. He's a big. He's got all the right politics too, so he'd make a good mayor.
All right, so Alex, I'm going to ask you a question, and I always ask this. I'm putting you on the spot. I don't know you, but I'm putting you on the spot. If I bring my helmet and my fire suit, can I go turn a lap? I just want one. I don't need nothing. So we'll wait to see what he says. So I promise I won't even go fast. I just want to go out there and say I did it. So, but no, we laugh about that all the time. Somebody let me drive their late model off one night over there at Stockton. And it was funny because Benjamin Victory Lane, they let me drive off the track. And he had won the race. So they're like, no, you got to go to Tech. Don't stop at the train, which I knew that from having my own car. You can't do all that stuff. So we went over there and rolled to the Tech line, and the Tech guy stuck his head in there, and he goes, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, Dad, you just let me drive it off there. And then everybody's like, how did you do that? His car owner hasn't even driven that car. How did you do this? Like, we just got to be friends. I don't know. Alex said if I had a second car with me, I'd say yes. I'm just putting you on the spot, man. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. I just love it.
Well, you'd also be back to the politics. The NASCAR wouldn't let you get in it.
Well, hey, I don't have anything controversial on my fire suit. That's all I'm going to say. 0. So, but anyway.
So how the dirt racing's your background, correct?
Yeah. Well, I'm piss poor at it. I just have a ball doing it. So,
Yeah.
I found out I run my mouth better than I run a car. So we'll just leave it at that.
So that's where it's at, though, man. Dirt racing seems to be so popular right now. I can't wrap I mean, I like dirt racing. Don't get me wrong. I come from a different background, but it seems like it's more popular than the asphalt stuff right now in a lot of ways.
Well, we've talked about that a lot. A lot of this. We've done some coverage with Stockton 99 at their asphalt track there. One of the other guys that works with Roseville and some other places. There is 2 very distinct groups in it. Your dirt racers don't seem to, I guess, coalesce with the asphalt as much, or the asphalt doesn't coalesce with the dirt.
Right.
But there are a few that are good on both of them. Like we have a young man that runs a late model at Stockton, then he run a hobby stock on the dirt, Ty Carlson.
Right.
He's good on both of them, loves both of them. Super young man and talented on that. I have sort of driven on asphalt before at Roseburg, but it wasn't for like what y'all do or anything like that. It was for the Crash Classics. Long story behind that. I've never been a major fan of asphalt. I mean, if NASCAR, there's a couple of races. I like to watch Martinsville. I like to watch Richmond.
Right.
It's funny, my history in racing, I used to go fishing at Lake Gaston all the time when I was stationed in Norfolk. We drove around that area. I drove through Martinsville on race weekend, never stopped. I met the Sadlers at their gas station there. Don't know who they were at the time. Don't know, then I progressed into racing and all that stuff. So like I said, Alex might, Arca won't without 3K and safety equipment, whatever it costs for the Arca license and that drug test. Drug test is not a problem. I can assure you. That's the one.
There you
go. Maybe the rest of it I can't, but the drug test, that's not a problem. We got the rest of it. That's somebody else. But anyway. All right. Well, I think we're going to end it here for tonight. I would appreciate you for coming on. I hope you had a fun time. Guys, if you're watching, hit the share button. Like it. We try to do this every week. We'll probably be gone off here till after the first of the year. Anybody wants to come on here that's watching that's new to it, that want to come on and talk about their racing stuff, let me know. We'll have you on, do all that stuff. We try to spread it out. We want to do more with the local stuff here and let all these people out here get to know their local drivers and do all that stuff. But hit the share button. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thanks for everybody. And thanks, Roger. And we'll end it right here.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, hang tight, bud. We'll talk off air.